First story. Toxic parents lied about me getting rejected by every university, causing me to neglect my studies, commit self-harm, and ruin my whole life. Now, after 4 years, I found out I was accepted into 5 universities, including 2 Ivy Leagues, and the rejection phone calls and letters were from my mom's drama, pretending to be university staff to control my life as I'm a girl. Sorry if there's any mistakes here. Although it's been 2 days at this point, though, I'm still shaken up. This is also my first time posting, ever, so I'm not sure if I'm doing it right in the first place. In 2020, I was set to graduate from my online high school. Due to health reasons, I was schooled online different from homeschooling since 3rd grade. My parents are strict. They have old-fashioned values as they both immigrated from South India and are overprotective of me. I'm their firstborn, and seeing that my mother had me pretty early, it was safe to say they didn't exactly know how to raise me. My parents are good people, all things considered. Bar how they raised me, they really are wonderful people, especially my dad. He has strong morals, always advocates for the poor, has no issue being completely honest, and will stand up for what he believes is right. Or, at least I assumed he would. I wouldn't consider myself the best student, the best kid, or the best person, really. Since I was young, I had a very poor self-image, mainly because of reasons I won't entirely get into here. But suffice it to say, my mental and emotional health isn't at all stable, and having been gaslit and abused mentally and emotionally left its toll. Going back to 2020, it was a mess. Even without the pandemic shutting everything down, the year was turbulent for me, as I had unknowingly skipped my junior year and was going straight into senior. I had to do SATs, college apps, all of it within the same few months. Yes, I was absolutely pissed that my time and effort in stressing over the SATs were wasted. But what can you do? Anyway, I had applied to 7 different universities. I won't name them, but amongst them were 2 Ivy Leagues. My mindset was to apply to as many schools as I thought I could qualify for and go on from there. I don't fully recall what I applied for, but for the Ivy Leagues, I had applied to their astronomy astrophysics program, 2 pharmacy programs, and 1 pre-med program. I think the other 2 were possibly also astronomy or pre-med. I can't recall. When I was waiting for the first letter to come in, my heart sank as I read it being a rejection letter. Okay, that's fine. It wasn't my top university, so it's okay. Then came my second rejection. And then what I perceived to be my third. After that, I couldn't read them anymore and refused to log into the email, just asking my parents to relay the information. I trusted them, and I just didn't want to see any more rejections. The first 3 was already too hard to bear. So imagine how I felt when all of them rejected me. I know I should have suspected something then, but I didn't. I was an ignorant, trusting 17-year-old kid without any life experience, so I blindly took it and easily assumed I was a horrible, stupid, incompetent moron. My parents did their best to comfort me, assuring me that my local community college was a terrific option in these climates, and for us financially we're below the poverty line. I was so depressed, I couldn't even celebrate my graduation properly. I just made myself a little tiramisu. But it was absolutely atrocious because my heart wasn't in it. Ever since then, I've always had a crippling fear of further rejection, so I never actually tried since then. Every exam in college I had anxiety attacks and constantly made mistakes that cost me a half-decent grade. I went from a 3.95 GPA to barely scrapping a 2.7 within a few months. I would accidentally skip questions, even multiple choice ones. I'd select the wrong choice, even if I absolutely knew what the correct one was. I recall that every professor I've ever had that was able to see my original answer constantly told me to stop doubting myself. I always had the answer right first, then would erase it and give the wrong one. I just did not trust myself. I was a failure, a moron, an idiot, and my parents didn't deserve a child like me. Recently, I managed to scrape enough passing grades after plenty of failures to be able to apply to a PharmD program that my parents wanted. I got in and needed to activate an account in order to pay my deposit. However, I couldn't find the email with my new university ID number anywhere. I eventually called, and after some information sharing, they revealed that with my name and social security number, I already had a number provided, given back in 2020, and that he'd happily resend it to me. But they only gave out ID numbers to students that were accepted. I was confused and a little suspicious. So I went through my mail deeper and found an acceptance letter. It was dated to 2020, and it hadn't been read. Confused even further, I showed it to my parents. They exchanged glances and just shrugged. They revealed that I was accepted to that particular university for their pre-pharmacy program years ago. They just didn't tell me. I couldn't help but press more about the others. My mom seemed hesitant, but my dad said I was accepted into most. All except the first few rejection letters I had read. My whole world was starting to turn upside down, and I was feeling faint. They kept talking, being so casual about it all, nonchalantly admitting they had sent emails and made phone calls, mom pretending to be me. She has a very young voice, turning down the admissions, deleting most of the emails, and telling me I was rejected. Why? Because they didn't want me to even consider dorming or the like, considering the state of our finances plus the pandemic. I think the worst of it was how in the last 4 years, they kept randomly telling me, oh, it's a good thing you weren't accepted. With how you're doing in community college, those universities would have eaten you alive. Or things along those lines. I would have understood them if they told me. I was scared then too, to leave for university. I would have agreed and stayed in community college. But instead they lied to me, hid from me the truth, and let me believe I was worthless and incompetent. They let me constantly strive for their forgiveness over merely existing and wasting space. They let me drive myself to the edge of my sanity to make it up to them for my being a disappointment. They'd tell me that I wasn't good enough back then, but they were proud of me for being resilient otherwise. I had 2 unalive attempts and physically cut myself plenty of times in order to punish myself. And I did it on my upper inner thighs, so my parents wouldn't know and blame themselves. Though they did catch a glance once, but my dad dismissed it as attention-seeking, and my mom, razor cuts. I'm still reeling from the shock. They're so dismissive about it, as if they didn't just fundamentally ruin my emotionally and mentally, but change me so significantly. I don't think I can ever recover from what they've done to me. This betrayal is the worst pain I've ever felt, and I want to scream and sob and break things. But I can't. I don't have the privacy to do that in our tiny little home, so I have to just suck it up as per usual and shove it down. I've never had this many emotions clogged up in my throat. I've never felt this lethargic, this heavy, this blindsided. I don't know what to do, but all I know is that I can never trust my parents again. I don't think I can ever trust anyone properly again. If my own parents would do this to me, what's stopping anyone else from doing so? There are a few people I trust, though, but it still hurts so much. I wonder who I could have been if they hadn't lied and just talked to me. I wonder who I could have been if I was allowed to pursue my passions. I already knew my parents hated me for wanting to go into astrophysics. I was told constantly it's a man's job and things along those lines. I thought they'd be proud for having an astrophysicist as a daughter, seeing how much they cared about their self-image. I thought they'd love me. But I guess since I've never had a proper birthday since I was 5, or had any special event part to my name ever since, I guess I could have suspected it. They said the only event they'd ever celebrate with me would be my PharmD graduation, my wedding, and maybe my firstborn child. Nothing more. Now I feel like I don't want any of that. I just want to curl up on my bedsheet and forget about the rest of the world. Rethink everything. Redo everything. I don't know. I just needed to vent to relieve the pressure mounting up inside. I told a few of my online friends, but I still feel suffocated. I hope this makes it all feel better. Edit. Holy balls, there's so many of you. Hi. So, this isn't some massive update where I announce I'm moving out. I got into every Ivy League in the country. I discovered alien life on my first day as a NASA intern or something. It's just to answer the questions and remarks I saw the most often in comments. Comments that I've all read in their entirety. Even the essay ones, which I really appreciate, but good lord. I promise I'll try individual responses when I can. But for now, this is what you're going to get. I'm not going to call up the universities and try to wriggle my way back in. I'm not sure if it's possible 4 years later, and I've lost all interest motivation to study astrophysics regardless. My gut twists and my heart hurts every time I think of it. I have been accepted into one of the universities I was rejected by 4 years ago, this time for their PharmD program. They offer clinical rotations outside the state and outside the country in impoverished communities, Indian reservations in New Mexico, Alaska, Brazil, etc. So I'm going to use that program to get myself out more. I was raised very, very, very isolated, so I don't know the first thing about getting a job, starting a bank account, moving, none of it. It was never a consideration for me, as I always assumed my position in blindly following my parents' advice. I did start thinking about it in the last year or so, but I was far too focused on my studies to put much time or effort into that. I'm not allowed to leave the house by myself. I'm not even allowed to walk down the block without my mom craning her neck out of the door, watching me. Because I'm a girl and could get kidnapped, which I do believe is her main concern. She watches one too many daughter girl is in danger type Indian movies that only fuel her paranoia. My dad is a good person. He was just ruined and rotted by my mother, who's the main narcissist. Why do I believe that? Her mom, my grandmother, is absolutely vile. And even I, someone she raised and loves, can see it quite plainly. She actively ruins my dad's mental and emotional well-being with her meddling. And the only moment I can recall our family being happy was one summer where she initiated low contact with us. I'm staying for my siblings. Although I can note that my brothers are better treated than me, they still rely on me more than our parents, except for one. But he has done things to me that I don't think you'll like to hear. I've already helped my next sibling, who's due for college, to explore his own interests and advocate for him. Our parents want him to go into biomedical engineering, and he's just interested in plain software development. They've agreed after I argued for him for days on end. My family normalizes their children putting their money into their parents' bank accounts until they've married and opened a joint marriage account. Yes, this includes fully realized adults with doctorate jobs, engineering, etc. It's more on the grounds that it's responsible over anything else, and the parents say they don't use it. I believe those families. I don't believe mine. I had earned close to $20,000 from over 6, 12, 18 years of non-stop, near daily waitressing in my parents' restaurant through tips alone, no wages. I used to meticulously record every cent taken and put into my money jar with a slip of paper, but I don't know where it is now. My mom said she put it in the safe, but you can assume why I have my doubts if it's still even in the house anymore. I'm not going to study astrophysics again in the future. I don't know if this is just the trauma talking, but in the future, I want to become a professor. If I could, any advice around that would be great. Specifically for anatomy and physiology. Maybe, just maybe, I'd look into maybe a degree in fine arts or culinary arts. Just something that wouldn't give me heart palpitations thinking about it. I do know I need therapy. I am going to get therapy, but I've tried asking for help before, and all of them went through my parents, so I have a reasonable apprehension toward them. I'm also going to transfer out of my college, so I don't see a point in asking for a counselor just 2-3 weeks before the end of the semester. Yes, they have an arranged marriage and are interested in arranging a marriage for me. Yes, they've tried when I was 16, 17, but nothing came of it. Yes, I have secretly dated, and almost of them were toxic. No, I am not interested in dating you. Please stop DM me about it. This isn't just one person, so I'd appreciate it if you take this as a sign to not. I'm not going to jump out of the house or go scorched earth. I don't know what that is honestly. But I am going to play the long game. Despite this blindsiding, I know my parents enough to understand how to operate around them. I may have the autonomy of a 9-year-old, but I'm pretty mature for my age and, alas, a terrific liar when it comes to it. I know where all my important documents are: immunization records, SSN, birth certificate, and passport, no driver's license, and I know the code to it. My parents don't know I know, because whenever I need it, I always ask them and pointedly look away. But I occasionally glance to make sure it hasn't changed. It hasn't. It's my birthday, strangely enough. That's sweet. My parents did online school for my one good. Not homeschool, online school. I used to go to the ER every night because of my severe allergies, and I still know how to operate my at-home ventilator, something I haven't used since 3rd grade thanks to being online schooled. I couldn't even go to church until several years later, when my body seemed to correct itself. And at that point, I didn't really want to leave my comfortable home where I could wear PJs to class and not leave at 7:45 am every morning. I'll say it again. My dad is genuinely a good person. By himself, he is a wonderful father, but needs therapy for childhood trauma that persists through his adulthood thanks to his toxic family. He hasn't broken the cycle, mainly because he doesn't see the cycle. I know his faults. I know he isn't a good father for me. But he's a very good person who doesn't ask much of me, honestly. He's just been abused and hurt. And due to being raised in a very conservative Indian village, he doesn't know and has never considered processing it through therapy. Only recently he's mentioned to me a few times he wants to, but my mother explodes and he can't. There's a lot more nuance to my situation that I, as a maturing young adult, can see but struggle to explain because it goes so deep and involves personal matters I don't feel like sharing with strangers on the internet. I'm sorry about that, but you will have to take me for my word in some instances. You don't have to, of course, but just keep that in mind. I may be easily gaslit and manipulated, but at this point, I am aware enough when I am. I'm going to do my best to respond to most of you by the end of the week. But who knows if I am good. Thoughts and prayers to me. Long update. Let's never do that again. Hopefully. Second story. Entitled parents demand that OP give them her entire paycheck because they raised her, wasted on their luxuries while verbally abusing her, and then decide to limit her spending of her own money. Okay, so I 16 just got my first job like a month ago. Last week, I got my first ever paycheck, which was really exciting. Now one of the main reasons I got a job was so I could cover some of my own non-essential expenses: clothes, stuff for hobbies, room decor, some food, since my mother 52F is a Psalm, always has been, and I didn't want to be a burden for my father 56F. Before I even got my first paycheck, I had budgeted exactly how much I wanted to spend and what I wanted to spend it on, since I didn't want to blow it all. My plan was to save at least half and spend what I didn't save. I'll admit, I did spoil myself a bit. I got some new clothes, a new sewing machine, and I'm going to get my nails done. All of this was only like $180 out of $500. But I also gave a portion to the church, as per my mother's request. I plan to put the rest of this in savings and not touch it. My mother is terrible with money, like blow through $800 in one day type of terrible. She's also always asking someone in my family for money, like my dad or my siblings 22 and 21, and usually they give it to her. But my sister's rent has gone up and her work hours have been cut, so she doesn't have money to give out like she used to. And my brother isn't working because he's only home for the summer. My father also has some new expenses to pay, so basically, nobody has handouts for her anymore, so she decided to come to me. Since I first received my paycheck, she's been acting kind of weird. Like when I got it, she wouldn't leave me alone until I told her how much it was, even though I wasn't comfortable sharing that information with anyone. And then she started talking about how, in her culture, I'm a first-generation American. The entirety of a child's first paycheck is given to the parents as an offering and a way to show thanks for raising them. I told her that it's a good thing I wasn't born where she was, so I don't have to do that, and I thought she would stop. But she brought up how it's been so long since she got a pedicure. It's been literally 3 weeks. I said okay, and then she asked me if I would pay for it. I gave her $30, how much our regular nail salon charges for pedicures, and she got upset and said it wasn't enough. I told her that I didn't have any more to spare, and she said I was being greedy. Okay, whatever. Then, we went grocery shopping, which she paid for, as usual, with my brother's EBT card. I got a few snacks and ingredients, and my food came up to like $27, which isn't bad since I share my snacks with my siblings, and I cook for them too. But then, my mother starts complaining. If you're going to eat all that, then you're going to have to start paying for it too. It's rude to try and bankrupt your brother. I was upset that she was making comments on my eating habits. She's always making comments about my body, and also frustrated that she was trying to milk more money out of me. So I just told her to put all my snacks and stuff down, and that I didn't really need them anyway. She got even more upset and said I was making a scene and being spoiled, but I just ignored her. The thing is though, it's not just her. My father is acting like this too. First, I took a shower. I do take kind of long showers, like usually 30-ish minutes, but this was never a problem until now. He literally stormed into the bathroom. Like he actually slammed the door open, super uncomfortable for me. But WTF, and told me that if I was going to be wasting his water, then I was going to have to start pitching in for the water bill. And he was serious. So now I don't shower when he's home to avoid conflicts like this. And then he told me to give him $50 to send to his family back home. I asked if he would pay me back, and he said he shouldn't have to, since he's never asked me to pay him back for raising me. Basically, I don't know, maybe I'm actually just being too stingy. They're not wrong that they never asked me to pay them back for raising me, so maybe I do owe it to them. But also like, I really don't make that much, and I think I should be allowed to spend my money however I want to. I'm literally going into my senior year, which is so expensive already, and I don't want to spend all my money in the case of an emergency. I just really want to save, and they're not letting me do that. But I don't know if they're entitled, or maybe I am. Sorry if this is too long. Ida. OMG, I don't know how I forgot this, since this was actually really upsetting, and the whole reason I made this post. But like a few days ago, I fell asleep on the couch, with my phone unlocked, I guess, and like right after I dozed off, I felt someone grab my phone, which was next to my head, and so I woke up, and I looked at her all confused and asked her to give it back, and she did. But she forgot or doesn't know how to close recently used apps. So when I opened the phone, I saw that she had opened the Zelle app, and I don't want to accuse her of anything, but I feel like if I'd woke up any later, she probably would have sent herself money or something. I don't know, but that was really weird. Ida 2. This has nothing to do with my title or story. But my mother just told me I was disappointing because I told her I would vacuum later since I have really bad cramps right now. Rude. Edit. I took a break from this post because I was overwhelmed by all the comments and advice. But thanks to everyone for reading and mostly being patient and helpful. To respond to a couple things, I keep seeing clearing things up. Sorry for taking 30-minute showers. Sorry that it's a tough pill for me to swallow that a bunch of strangers on the internet are calling my parents abusive. I'm not saying anyone's wrong or right, and I seriously appreciate that you're all trying to help. But I'm not refusing solutions. It's just a lot to handle by myself. I'm kind of against talking to a trusted adult about all this, but it's not willful ignorance or anything. I don't have any close family, so the only options would be a therapist or a school counselor. I can't see a therapist because my mother is anti-therapy, and talking to a school counselor is risky because she's required to tell CPS, and a case like that would put my mother at a pretty high risk of deportation. It's pretty personal, and I don't want into it. But there's that. I know it sounds like I'm being forced, but I am seriously a practicing Christian, and I enjoy giving to the church. I never minded giving to the church. It was just that the amount I was expected to give, 10% of my pay, was a lot considering what I was earning. Thanks again. Relevant comments. Deleted commenter. If you have another adult in your life that you trust, get them to open an account with you, because your parents will take the money you put into your savings account if their names are on it. And there will be nothing you can do to stop them. OP. My father's name is on my account. Does this mean he has access to my money? Tiltperger. Abusive AF. Also that he can enter the bathroom. Can't you lock? Do you have SB to talk to? OP. I'm now allowed to lock any of the doors in the house. They think that means I'm hiding something. And I don't know who I would talk to. I don't think they're abusive. They're actually nice to me quite often. Money is just one thing they're not nice about. My dad came from a less fortunate background, and my mom is used to being spoiled. She's the youngest girl of like 13 siblings, and her family comes from money. Medical_temperature 4. It sounds like you're rejecting all sensible solutions. What is your end goal? OP, I don't know, but I'm literally just scared. Everyone's saying that my parents are being abusive, which is something I've never really thought before, and telling me to move my money and defend myself, which is all easier said than done. I seriously appreciate the solutions, and I wish it were that easy, but put yourself in my shoes for a second. I know my parents and I know how they'll react and what that can mean for me, which is why I might be apprehensive about some of the solutions I've been given. Update. It's been a while. I kind of stopped replying to comments and stuff because they were getting kind of overwhelming. But thank you to everyone who took the time to respond. If you didn't read, I don't feel like it. Basically, I got my first job and my first paycheck, $500, and my parents felt like all of my money was rightfully theirs. Long story short, I ended up with $180 left of $500, and only $100 of those dollars were towards myself. Now for the actual update. So since my last paycheck, nothing has gotten better at all. I ended up giving up a total of like $200 to my parents for whatever they wanted. But they still wanted more. Like first, I had to pay for my own senior pictures, which was cool or weird, but kind of surprising because none of my siblings ever had to do that. Then they started asking me for gas money. Like, I had to go to the library, which is probably a 2-minute drive from my house. I would have walked. But I'm literally not allowed to lol. And my mother was yelling at me and saying that if I was going to use her car, then I was going to have to put gas in it. Which would be reasonable, except they don't make anyone else do that. Like my 22-year-old brother actually drives their car, and my mother gives him money out of my father's paycheck to put gas in it. But he's her favorite, so I guess it makes sense. Also, my father kept calling me stingy. Like, every day. Like I would just be sitting eating dinner, and he would come to me and be like, "My daughter. Good at so many things but so stingy." And it started getting to me. So I would try and explain that I didn't have any more money until I got paid again. Then I got paid yesterday. It was like $500 again, and I was trying to hide it. Like I transferred the money from my bank account to my Cash App, so that my father wouldn't see that I had any money. And if they asked, then I could play dumb. But when I got home today, my parents started interrogating me. Like they were asking me how I got paid, or if I knew how much I was going to get paid. And I was lying and saying no. But then my father literally pulled out a paper copy of my pay stub. My job still mails those out. And my parents open all my mail packages, college letters, school forms, etc. So unless I'm constantly intercepting the mail, they might always know how much I'm getting paid. Then my mother was mad at me because last paycheck I paid for her pedicure. And now she wants a manicure and her hair done. I tried to tell her I didn't have money, but she refused to believe that and said that if I couldn't give her money, then I couldn't eat the food she worked so hard to make she cooked today. So I just gave her $80 for her nails because I was over-arguing. This is kind of a sidetrack, but it's important. But my parents are arguing right now. My father is spending significantly more money out of all of his paychecks because of something that my psalm committed them to financially. But the thing is that she still expects to be able to keep up with all of her self-maintenance clothes, nails, hair, etc. Long story short, she said that she didn't need his money anyway. And so when I sent her the money for her nails, she was bragging to him about how I gave her money and not him. So then my father was upset because he thinks I only sent her money because we're both women. He said it was kind of harsher than that. He has misogynistic tendencies because of the culture he was raised in. So I ended up just giving him $80 to even it out. And I gave them both $30 extra for gas money, so they would stay off my arse. It should be over, right? No, it's not. Because I got in trouble for lying about getting paid. They think I'm lying because I plan on blowing it all on myself, which isn't true. I was going to save this check to make up for what I spent on the last one. But now they think I'm selfish, stingy, and financially irresponsible, so they're going to start limiting my spending of my own money. And the school year and my birthday are around the corner. And I'm pretty sure they're not going to let me go out to dinner for my birthday like I planned. But that's not a money thing. I'm just not really allowed to go out. There's so much more I could say about my parents, but that could probably be 15 different posts. And I don't know if they'd even be appropriate for this sub, lol. But thanks for reading if you do. I'm sorry if this makes not a lot of sense. I'm just really tired. Like I'm over this whole thing. I wish I had somewhere else to vent, but I literally don't. Thanks for listening, people. Relevant comments. Cat 13832. I'd quit. Or find another trusted adult and tell them about your parents' behavior. OP, I would. But I have absolutely no family, and I'm not allowed to see like a therapist counselor. Halimaha. What ethnicity are you? Defoe sounds South Asian Eichel. This is so on brand. OP African, Caribbean mostly African. Amphilishness. A school counselor FFS, please. Your parents are so immature. You'll never be able to trust them when it comes to money. Please, just talk to someone. This isn't right. OP, I'll try. But the last time I tried to talk to a counselor, I got in huge trouble. Like I couldn't go to in-person school, so I wouldn't do it again. Arabella Pancake, that sucks. What kind of classes are they that you have to pay for? You're a student in high school, right? There shouldn't be any other mandatory costs. OP, it's kind of hard to explain, but I'll try. I go to a trade high school, so the goal is to get students ready to work straight after graduation. It's not like other high schools where the goal is to get students ready for college. So, the amount of credits necessary to graduate from my school is less than most four-year universities accept. So if I want to go to a decent college university, I have to take extra classes. But since those aren't a graduation requirement, I have to pay for them. Like, to graduate from my school, you need 3 math and no foreign language. Most colleges want at least 4 math and 1 foreign language. I'm taking a total of 6 math classes, 2 of them this school year, and 1 foreign language, so I have to pay for all of those. I hope this makes it clearer. Thank you for watching the video. If you are interested in listening to these kinds of stories, we've got more in store for you. Simply subscribe to our channel, hit the like button, and share it with your friends.